very, very short introduction words from me. My name is Vika Biran. I'm the project manager here, and I'm co-organizing this project together with my colleagues, Marta and Pavel from n-ost, who are present here, and also representatives of partner organizations and individuals who are also present here. We've just recently changed or upgraded n-ost identity, so I'm not sure if someone has noticed it, but now the name sounds a bit different. It's Network for Cross-Border Journalism. So we're still kind of doing the same things. We still have an office in Berlin. However, the office is new. We've just recently moved. So please, if you will be around, come and check what are the differences together with the previous one. And here we are gathered to celebrate the results of the third round of stipend projects. We have here people who will share a little bit about what they were working on. And we also have some guests. Nice to have you here. Hi. And our project is slowly coming to an end. This is the third round of stipends and the third project presentation. We will have one more in a few weeks. And actually, this is the end. So we are looking for nice ways to celebrate the results and to say goodbye to each other and prepare some soil to enter new life and work processes. Let's hope that we can find each other on the way in these processes somehow around, and will not lose each other because the project is done. And I don't want to talk too much. I will maybe give a word back to Marta, right? Because you know better what happens next.
I know best. I think it would be nice to have a brief hello from everyone from the organizing team. Maybe just one word. Hi, I don't know.
Yes. Hi, I'm Pavel. I'm responsible for all things digital at UNIT. And just a short request, if you're not speaking, please turn off your mic. Thank you.
I could go next. My name is Katya. My pronouns she, her. I'm one of the representatives from partner organization Human Constanta, and we are a human rights organization. And probably I will pass to Valdis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Valdis, and yeah, I'm also from Human Constanta. They also love to do education and learning about human rights, equality, and social justice. Glad to be here with you.
And I'm the last. My name is Juliana. I'm journalist and editor from Ukraine. I live in Kiev, and now I'm staying in Zaporizhia. It's my hometown. And also I'm an individual partner in this project, and I was more responsible for this content part of our amazing project.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'm the very last one, even after Juliana. I'm Marta, and I'm part of n-ost, of UNIT, together with Vika and Pavel. And I'm the one who will be guiding you through today's presentation. I know many of you know, but not all, because we have several familiar faces who were also part of our third workshop. Hello again to all of you. Very happy to see you again. Even the ones who didn't work, but are still curious about how everyone did over the past months. So as the backstory, we had our last workshop in April in Lublin and Przemysl, and it was dedicated mainly to queer displacement then and now. This was a bit special compared to the other workshops that we did, because we were also specifically looking at migration as a topic today, especially in Przemysl, but we were also looking at all of these sites, memorial sites connected to queer history, but also queer migration today. So it had a slightly different focus than the two workshops that we did before. And I think we can also notice this in the projects that we have today, which I'm really happy to see and very curious. And yeah, I'm also very proud of all of you. And then thank you for being here. And yeah, hopefully let's have a nice afternoon, evening together and just appreciate and celebrate all these projects that you made. But Vika first wants to add something. What do you want to add?
Because I forgot to say who is financing this project. This is the Foundation Erinnerung, Verantwortung, Zukunft. And also, for those of you who haven't noticed it, but probably you had, this meeting is being recorded. Why? Because we want to keep it available for future generations who will work with the topic or who wants to know people behind the projects more. So please be aware, don't share your secrets now. Let's do it later during our discussions round, because then we will turn off this recording and then we will go deeper. Thank you.
Thanks for adding that. That's of course important. So just as a time plan for today, we have 7 projects. Currently 6 of them are present. So I planned 10 minutes per project to present themselves, and then afterwards we will have our open discussion for everyone. And this second discussion part will not be recorded. So so much for now. I think I would directly invite Selina and Clara to present their work. Selina and Clara were also a part of the 3rd workshop, and they dedicated their project on 2 things, on queer resistance in Ukraine today. This was one of the articles that they have been working on, but also queerphobic and anti-queer propaganda, and how to debunk it, why to debunk it. Yes, so everyone who wants to have a look at the projects themselves can check out the link that Pavel just posted. We will always post the publications during their presentation. And now I give the floor to Clara and Selina. Please, floor is yours. You have 10 minutes. I will be strict.
Thank you. I will share my screen like I sent a request. Can someone? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Looks good. Yeah, I'm going to start right away. I'm so happy to see all of you. It's very good to see you again. Very excited to be here. And yeah, so as mentioned before, Selina and I met in the workshop we had in the beginning of the year. And the focus of the workshop has been queer displacement from an historical perspective, I would say. And Selina and I met after the workshop and decided that it would be nice to work on the research together. And for this workshop, we were both thinking on focusing on queer displacement in online spaces, like focusing on social media representation of queer people. And while digging deeper into the research, we were we quickly realized that the topic is heavily linked to anti-queer disinformation that has been used to discredit the LGBTIQ community in the past, but is being used even more so right now to frame the community as an enemy, for example, and obviously like social media is playing a key role in this right now. And yeah, this kind of disinformation is based on anti-queer narratives that have been used for centuries, actually, beginning by like biblical origins and things like that. And it's also interesting to see how different political actors from either end of the ideological spectrum have been using this kind of disinformation depending on their agenda. So yeah, that was interesting for us to see. And then also we realized that according to several studies, Russia is right now the country using online disinformation the most, targeting different countries but also Ukraine to legitimize the full-scale war. So yeah, we realized that these are all very interesting aspects we would like to focus on. And this is why we were soon also realizing that it makes more sense to split the research into two publications, like one focusing more on the historical aspects, digging deeper into queerphobic conspiracy theories and disinformation, and then the other one focusing more on the specific situation of Ukraine, because it is a very specific situation, and it was a bit easier to split the topics more like that. Exactly. And yes, so about the historical article first, this one was published in a German online magazine that is called Perspective Daily. It's a member-based magazine, which means that usually the article is behind a paywall, even though we were able to share a link. By using this link, you could avoid the paywall. And this article was focusing on the long tradition of anti-queer disinformation, why it catches on right now more than ever, and then how we can counter it. And for this article, we were mainly talking to two experts. One of them was Dr. Lisa Gaufmann. She researches Russian discourses and disinformation. And then on the other hand, Jennifer Evans, who works at the University of Ottawa on modern European history with a focus on sexuality and gender. And we were in the end focusing on 4 widespread misanthropic myths that are currently resurfacing in discourse, for example, being spread by the AfD, by Russian propaganda, by religious arguments, and so on and so forth. Even though there are way more myths you could dig into, of course. And yeah, in the end, we were kind of concluding that only through historical awareness, through media education, and then the conscious discussion, these myths can still be recognized today, and we will be able to combat these myths.
Okay, then I will tell a little bit about the second article that we did for the online magazine called Deine Korrespondentin, which is easily translated to Your Correspondent, and which tells stories about different parts of the world and mostly focused on female actors and what they're doing in their country. And there we had the leading questions on how anti-queer narratives or anti-queer disinformation affects the daily lives of LGBTIQ people in Ukraine, because there has been studies that show that Russia is one of the countries using online disinformation most, and also targeting different countries, but also targeting Ukraine, using it in the ongoing full-scale war right now to spread their narratives and their propaganda. And their disinformation is based on queerphobia, misogyny, and hostility towards the West. And there are different disinformation and myths they spread. One of them being the one of Gay Europa. I think a lot of us have already heard about that, framing Europe as a very gay and queer union, and that Ukraine would be in the middle of deciding either they would go towards Europe, which means they would be super queer and would abandon traditional values which Russia stands for, and so they kind of frame it of that they are protecting the traditional values, and that's one of the reasons why they want Ukraine to be part of Russia again. And yeah, we talked to the historians of Dr. Lisa Gaufmann and Jennifer Evans that Clara already said that we talked to. We talked to them about Russian discourses and Russian disinformation, and also how disinformation has developed over centuries and was used from different political actors. And we also talked to the Ukrainian journalist Juliana Skibitska, which is also part of this meeting today, and who's also part of n-ost, who could give us insights on her work and what she's doing in Ukraine and what topics she's covering, and how she sees these disinformation and when she encounters them. And then we also talked to the human rights activist Olena Shevchenko. She's the founder of the human rights organization Insights. On the left, the picture you can see is from that organization, and they been fighting for queer rights and also same-sex marriage. And by talking to them, we like the main topics that we talked about was that like the work of them like actually does matter and does improve a lot, because like over the years you can see that the public opinion towards LGBTIQ people in Ukraine has actually increased. And this is not only because journalists and activists discounter these disinformation campaigns, but also because they set their own narratives. Like they share the lives of LGBTIQ people, maybe also.
Zoom.
Oh, okay. And where was I? Yeah, to set their own narratives. One good example is that like one time Russian disinformation would say the Ukrainian army is so gay, which makes them so weak, and this is why they can't fight that much. And on the other hand, there is like this disinformation being like that all the LGBTIQ people would flee the country and not protect their own country. So you see that also the disinformation is like not really coherent. And yeah, people like Juliana and Olena fight against these narratives, but also set their own. And then finally, we also wanted to share our difficulties and successes, like about the project with you. Starting with difficulties, like we pitched our story about disinformation in Ukraine to Süddeutsche Zeitung, and there we actually got the respondents that they have their own correspondents in the country. That's why they're not interested in our article. And we thought that like we didn't think about that before, so that was like an interesting learning of like maybe for the next pitches that we're gonna do. Then we also received several rejections for the historical text because it kind of lacked a protagonist, because we wanted to like show the whole picture of like how disinformation and anti-queer disinformation developed, and how you could have these anti-queer narratives like back 100 years ago, and now they resurface and show where they're from. And the third point would be that we try to give space to like historical aspects or personal stories that would otherwise remain hidden, and then we tried to give them space. But then when we had like the feedback with the magazines, actually these points were the ones that got like cut out, and so we kind of had to fight for them to like for the details to stay in, because that's also part of this project. And for the successes, we can say that while interviewing the historian Jennifer Evans, she offered us to join the international conference she's hosting in Canada on the topic of hate, conspiracy theories, and the challenge to democracy, which is really nice because you see that the topic gets like a broader audience. And also we're happy to share like our insights that we gathered, and to like give this topic more space as it deserves. And we're also hoping to like get more insights from like other people that have been doing research on the topic. And yeah, this also means that we will continue working on the topic, and we're like super happy and grateful that we get the chance in the first place to start it and to like actually have a lot of time to work on it. And so another article is also coming soon, and who knows, maybe even more. That's it from our side. I hope we're still in the 10 minutes.
You're so perfect in time. Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. It's of course nice to hear and also hear your successes in the end. I think especially being invited to this conference is something you can really be proud of. And I think you did a fantastic job. Yeah, just congratulations from my side. Oh yes, Pavel?
I have a small technical comment. If you see those weird previews in the chat, don't be worried about them. We've been dealing with some problems and malware and hacker attacks on our website. We've since fixed that issue, but Zoom does have a cache where it saves such info. So I'm on it, and hopefully it doesn't bother you too much.
Okay, thanks. I hope it doesn't. So thank you, Selina. Thank you, Clara. We will hopefully get back to you in the discussion round. But for now, I want to stay in Ukraine because, no, actually, no, I don't. Or do I? No, actually, I don't want to stay in Ukraine. We will come back to Ukraine later. But now I want to invite Helena to present the project on so-called secure countries of origin and what it means for people to actually flee because of their queerness from a so-called safe country of origin, if it's actually very much not safe for them to be there. So please, floor is yours. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to see you. Also the ones that have not been in Missouri. Very happy. I will also try to share my screen. Did it work?
Yep.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Okay, I don't have such a fancy presentation. I just have one slide for you to look at something while I'm talking. But yes, my project's title is Unsicher im Herkunftsland, or Unsafe in the Country of Origin. As you can see, it is an article that was published in Taz Nahaufnahme in cooperation with the photographer Sitara Ambrosio, who made the pictures that you can see also in the presentation. I like them very much. And it is a reportage that is describing the current situation of queer refugees who decided to leave Georgia in order to seek asylum in Germany, so far without success. So it means that both applications were rejected, and they filed a lawsuit, and now they're waiting for the administrative court's decision on their case, which is true for both of them. So on the left side, you can see Fagata. Fagata is a non-binary drag artist who came to Berlin in 2023, shortly after a violent attack on Tbilisi Pride. And on the right side, you can see Adora, who is a young trans woman. She has been in Berlin only for a couple of months. She came in March 2025, and she was personally very affected by the anti-LGBTQ law that was passed by the Georgian government in autumn 2024. I'm sure a lot of you know of it or heard of it. What might be important to say also for the case of Adora is that shortly after the law was passed, a very famous Georgian trans woman was killed, Kezaria Bramitsa. And this was very, very threatening also to Adora, which was for her the most important reason to leave the country in spring. So yes, originally I planned to actually go to Georgia, which was the first idea, to go there and actually accompany someone who in this like decision-making process to leave the country, and then also on their way to Poland or Germany. But it was not possible, and I focused on two persons who are already in Berlin for some time, even though they came at very different points of time. Fagata is already here for 2 years, Adora only for a couple months, which I thought was a very interesting perspective to cover both. Also in this regard, dealing with this concept of safe country of origin, which was a decision Germany made in 2023 as part of a migration deal with Georgia. And it is actually very interesting how this decision affected the people who are seeking asylum in Germany, not so much in terms of numbers, which was very surprising for me. So the protection quota was already very, very low for refugees from Georgia. But of course, it facilitates very much the rejection, which can be rejected just as, how does it say, manifestly unfounded, as it's also the case for Adora. Also, it facilitates the deportation. So, for example, in 2024, the year after the decision was made, 2,635 people from Georgia applied for asylum in Germany. One was recognized as a refugee, 3 got subsidiary protection, and 1,600 were deported, which was as much as not in any other country. So Georgia was #1 country with the highest numbers of deportations. So I think this is really important to know with the effects of this decision. And also, what I just want to highlight in this very short presentation, and what I wrote about in the article, is the the attitude of the courts of the administrative courts who are responsible for this kind of asylum decisions of the BAMF, which are changing their attitude towards this decision and towards queer refugees from Georgia in general. So you can see that, for example, a few years ago, courts were still saying like, yes, Georgian society is like homophobic, transphobic, but there's not like a systematic failure of protection of the queer minority. And over years, it changes a lot. So now they're saying, no, there's like a systematic problem with the protection of queer minority, and they doubt the classification of Georgia as a safe country of origin, and they even doubt that it is compatible with EU law. So that is maybe something that is also important to know, and that leaves also a chance for reconsideration, I think, when it comes to this topic on just like a legal or political level. But I think most importantly, yes, the article was to just give an insight on how these people are somehow caught between like the actual threat of persecution in their home country on the one hand, and then the like limitations of German migration policy, which does not recognize the circumstance. So yeah, I'm happy if you read it, and I'm very happy to to talk to you about it and get feedback. And yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for your impressive work. I think I'm very impressed by what you made out of your initial idea of actually going to Georgia and instead having these very intimate and close portraits of people and their destinies in Berlin. So thank you very much for this. As I already said in the beginning, we have several projects that were circling around migration today, queer migration and displacement today. And Lily is already smiling. I think Lily already knows that it's now Lily's and Eugenia's turn. Yeah, there you are. Because the two have been working on the new countries and how to feel safe there and whether to feel safe there at all. So I'm asking you to maybe give some insights into your work. Floor is yours.
Hi, everyone.
Hey. Yeah, we can follow actually really well, I think, from this presentation. Thank you, Helena. Just very briefly, kind of what we were working on is also the broader topic of queer safety and what it means to be considered safe in countries of origin, and also what it means for safety in countries where people migrate to or go through over time. And this idea kind of came also from the last seminar, so from the last round of this project, where we talked a lot about it, and we also realized kind of the complexity of this topic because of the very different contexts and the very different perceptions of countries within Germany or within the EU, and how these very different situations actually affect real people and their perceptions and also situations, legal situations. And so in the end, we decided kind of 2.5-ish articles came out of this. And we decided to focus very much on the individual experience and on the individual perceptions also of people around this.
Yes, and so for this project, we have recruited several protagonists, interviewees. We were mostly recruiting them through our personal networks, connections, because both of us are in gender studies academia, so to speak, and also both of us are involved in different sorts of activism. So for this project, we recruited several respondents from Hungary, one respondent from Georgia, and also a very particular case, a Ukrainian non-binary transgender couple who have already been in the USA and who left the USA because of Trump and Trump's policies. They tried to go to Germany, but now they are facing many, many difficulties because they are being denied asylum. And also we had a respondent from Belarus, who also is struggling to secure her livelihood in Austria. Yes, so we were doing this parallel. We were developing the interviews, and also Lily was pitching the materials to different media. Much like Selina and Clara, we also faced difficulties in finding places where to publish these materials. I don't know, Lily, do you want to add anything about our methods at this point?
Yeah, kind of. I think you said everything. Maybe I will go on to talk about the first article quickly.
Sure.
Yeah, so the first article which came out of this, there's two of the links here in the chat. Actually, the one I'm going to talk about is the second link, I think, is one that was published in the German queer magazine Siegessäule 2 months ago at this point. And this one was kind of focused on the perspective in Germany or around Germany, and included our one protagonist from Georgia, Neo, and two protagonists from Hungary. And it also, we kind of talked about a lot of things which Helena also mentioned in her article, so you can kind of read both and see. But I think what was also interesting for us, because we took like two very different countries with Hungary and Georgia, which also have like very different legal standing when migrating to the EU, very different preconceptions when it comes to safety right now in, let's say, German or European public discourse. And also we took quite two different protagonists. One of them had already lived in Germany, one of them lived in Germany and moved back, and one of them was still thinking about migrating to the EU or Germany. And I think maybe the main takeaway, I mean, you can read a lot more details in the article, but the main takeaway is that we realized that this classification of safe country is much more complex than at the beginning we conceptualized. And also we kind of, I think, managed to talk a bit about challenging different cliches, like, okay, of course, there are some laws in Georgia, for example, or in Hungary to some extent, which make it unsafe for queer people. But then most of our protagonists actually ended up talking in this article and the other article also about that it depends on much more, like economic status, networks, all of these other things. One of the protagonists also said that, okay, if you're a queer person feeling unsafe at home and then you migrate to Germany and don't have any economic stability, you will still feel unsafe in Germany because of all the discrimination stuff and also the economic instability. So I think this was maybe the complexity is what we were trying to highlight also in this article. Yeah.
Yeah, and we kind of distributed our protagonists between the articles that we were publishing, and for Tagebuch, which I have here in print, nice and beautiful. You can buy it in Germany, in Austria, and in Switzerland, I guess. It came out. It came out in end of July, and for this material we took our protagonists, the Ukrainian couple that is now trying to settle in Germany, and also another couple. It is also, I mean, I don't feel good, you know, using the word interesting to these cases. I would rather say you know, strong, impressive, but also make us think a lot. The case of a Belarusian queer activist, refugee, and her partner is Ukrainian, but unlike many other Ukrainians, she is not eligible for the temporary protection because she also holds the US green card, permanent residence permit, which is of very little use while Trump is in power. So we offered to Tagebuch these two stories and they got published. I would say, yes, and I would say also my biggest impression, my biggest takeaway from working on this article is how actually the categories of safety, security, and being accepted, they are very, very fluid, and they're getting growingly fluid, and they cannot be, you know, simplified. They are never simplistic. And maybe this is time, because we have limited time to talk about it, yeah, we had a moment in our work on these materials when we realized that we need to sort of shift our focus, our approach, because we entered this with an assumption that, you know, okay, we are going to talk to people who are not perceived as endangered enough, who are like not perceived as being threatened as queer people because they are from certain countries. But also it is important to ask them what kind of protection do they actually want, because like we were entering this research with the assumption that, okay, they are endangered, they are disenfranchised because they do not have the access to asylum, but also nobody actually wants the asylum in, the way it's classically being implemented, because nobody wants to wait for like many years for their case to be approved, not being able to work or to study, and only then, be able to gain some sort of stability if their case is approved. So I would say, yes, our main takeaway is that both categories of security and protection are not simplistic and, yeah, should probably be rethought in the modern world. Should we talk about complications, difficulties? Maybe, Lily, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I think what we already mentioned, complications, was also the publication process, which we realized very well, because also with what Jinya said now, this kind of, it's not such a clear category, and I think we're trying to show this complexity also when we're pitching to newspapers. And I think 1 or 2 times, for example, from TEDS, we got a rejection kind of based on, okay, it's not so clear and it needs to be like very clear cases, and it was a bit hard to put this complexity in like the journalistic format and market it. And maybe very briefly, I will also say that a third article, which kind of came out of this, but which is, let's say, in process still, was an article on Belarusian queer people in Poland today, for which we also interviewed some people, and kind of about also perceptions of safety, but also current situation in Poland following presidential elections and rise of far right. And also there we kind of saw that also the dimension of like, let's say, forced displacement, but also like kind of standing within the country, like in this case in Poland, rights, debates, how it affects people, but also the own community, and how kind of discourses within the community can affect people and perceptions of safety and solidarity. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe just one last thing about the particularities of our work is that we could not offer many visuals. We were actually struggling with the visuals a lot because obviously because of the topic, we cannot show the faces of our protagonists. We do not have much visuals from them. And for Tagebuch, we ended up having the illustrations because they have like a staff illustrator in this magazine. And for Ziggy Zoile, I think they...
Yeah, we managed to get a very nice picture of a Hungarian protagonist, but actually, unfortunately, our Georgian protagonist n-ost sent us some nice pictures from protests, but in the end they couldn't be used because of security. So I want to say I'm not very happy with the picture which Zigazai decided to use in the end, because it's people burning queer flag. It's very simplistic, but unfortunately, because of these concerns, we had to resort to kind of replacement there with Zigazoi.
Yeah, but anyway, please go read the articles. And I think Marta wants to say that we are running out of time.
Oh, you already said it. I don't have to. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your work. Yeah, I think it's also very interesting to hear about hindrances that you encountered on your way. And I know it has been quite a process, but I think especially with these illustrations in Tagebuch, it looks very nice. It's I don't know, it also feels very nice. Maybe to also add this, it's a very nice publication, I think, and also the Siegessäule article. So I think I just want to say thank you to you. And now that we've spoken and heard so much about hardships of exile, of unsafety, and all of these questions, I want to slowly move towards a different direction. And I would ask Manu and Yuri to speak about their articles, because they have been working on 2 different things, more connected to Polish. Well, I cannot even say history, but one article is about the Polish queer community in Germany, specifically in Cologne. So it's a different perspective on being queer abroad. And then the second part is about Lula La Polaka. But I will just let you take it from here. You have 10 minutes.
Lovely. Thank you for the introduction, Marta. And it's so good to see everyone and hear your presentations and read your wonderful texts. Let me have a moment to share my screen.
Hello, also from me.
Can you see my screen?
No.
I'm so sorry. Give me a moment.
Yay.
Yay!
It's working. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Manu. So I will speak about the portrait that we wrote about Lula La Polaka, Poland's oldest drag queen, who turned out 87 just some days after we met her in Warsaw in August. Thank you for the presentation also, Manu. So here you see some pictures of the process behind the scenes. On the right, there is the printed version of Taz. Actually, they will stop producing the printed weekday edition in their digitalization process. So this is one of the last editions, just as a side note. But coming back to Lula, so Lula lived all her life in Warsaw, was born in Warsaw in 1938, and was an active part of the queer community already in the 80s. For example, she shared one story with us on how she bought her first skirt together with a friend in a Warsaw shopping mall in the 80s. But what she considers her drag career only started when she was over 70. And I want to speak a bit more about the process of collaboration behind this article, but also the second article that then Manu will dive into. Also because I had the privilege to participate in 2 rounds of workshops already and 2 scholarship programs. So I want to share just some insights or things that were special to me in this process. So first, it was really special and beautiful to get back to Queer Museum in Warsaw after I had attended the opening of the museum last December and also wrote a piece about it that was supported by n-ost. So this was a nice continuity to go back there, and we met Lula there for the interview and actually also bumped into Kuba, who was doing another interview there. And while we were there, it was nice to see how the space was being visited and like very much alive and used by the community. So this was special. And Lula also shared several times how important the museum was for the community and also for her. And you see us on one of the pictures in front of the permanent exhibition. And there's this pair of stage shoes, which are Lula's shoes, that is part of the permanent exhibition on queer life in Poland from the 60s to 90s. So when I was in the museum in December, that's how I first learned about Lula. And now that we met her, it was very special for me, or I felt very honored about Lula's trust and the stories she shared with us, because these intergenerational conversations between queers are very rare, or at least for me. So I was touched by all the anecdotes and stories she shared with us, many, many more than the ones that went into the article. That is maybe part of the difficulties, that the article that was published in the end was shorter than we would have liked it to be. Yeah, and very important to us was that Lula's stories were specifically not about the darkness and gloominess of life in Poland before the 90s, but about a vivid community. And maybe the most important aspect that I want to share is that all of this was possible because of the translation by Manu and a second translator, Aga, that you see on one of the pictures in front of this selection of pins. That's where we did the interview, and also in front of the exhibition and stage shoes. So Aga and Manu made all of these conversations, but also the preparation with the book that Lula published accessible to me. Because when we came up with the idea to write a piece on Lula and interview her, I was at first really surprised that there is no text or other format in German language. Here on the slide, you see a movie, a documentary movie on Lula's life that actually like it's in Polish, but I think you cannot watch it with German subtitles, but with English ones. So of course there are journalists who speak both German and Polish who could have done such an interview and published it in German, but no one did so far. So our process entailed several rounds of translating back and forth between German and Polish. Plus, I was supported by a whisper translation by Aga on the spot. So I could ask direct questions when we were in the interview situation, because Lula only speaks Polish. And such a project could not have been realized without the support of a scholarship, because as a freelance journalist, one could not invest so much time and resources of several people into one article. And that's, yeah, so I felt like here the scholarship really contributed to telling other queer stories. And same goes for my trip to Queer Museum last December already. So a big thanks to UNIT. Plus, it was a pleasure to work together so closely with Emanuela. And I will hand over to you for now.
Thank you very much. I am also very glad that in the end we decided for a very participative process in which we worked together, both preparing for interviews, running them, and gathering materials, because it also gave me insight in how Yuri is working, but also how to create process which has so many aspects of translation and preparations when all the materials are in different languages. And I am really thankful for that, but to be mindful of time, I will also run through other texts that we prepared. That is a text on shaping Polish diasporic queer communities in Germany. And these texts happened to be everything else than I expected, actually, because we had several changes on the way, because article on Lula wasn't our first thought and our initial idea, but since Yuri got inspired by the burlesque, we decided to actually jump on that, but then it turned out that it's gonna be shorter than we expected, and therefore we might have to create some other texts. And also being inspired by our initial idea and by my findings in Lambda archive in Poland, I planned to prepare some article on Polish diasporic queer communities in Germany, actually focusing on Berlin, because this was the city that was connected to my archival findings from Lambda archive. So in Berlin, we spent some time in the archive of Schwules Museum, also collaborating on looking through very limited resource of boxes on some materials of German-Polish collaborations, because there are boxes Poland 1, 2, and 3, which we went through together. And Yuri, since most of the materials were in German, was looking through the materials that might be interesting and translating them for me. But also I found many materials that are in Polish, because before Lambda archive was even existence, some materials happened to be sent to Germany like forever ago. So there is also a lot of different materials that were very resourceful. And with that work, we prepared both for creating the article, but also running an interview. And then we had some obstacles, since the interview that was planned for the day was canceled 15 minutes prior, with no chance of running the interview that was, let's say, the centerpiece of the article, that was supposed to combine both the modern aspect of migration activism and some historical aspects of the movement. And unfortunately, there was no chance to run that interview. But wondering what to do with all the materials that we already gathered and the time that we have, I decided to run another interview. And this is how I met Queer Club, that is the only Polish Polonia migrant diasporic organization in Germany that has this formal aspect of creating community and focusing very much on experience of Polishness, both in this aspect of being migrant, but also having Polish roots. And we had this very long and very moving conversation with two members of Queer Club that was focused both on experience of being queer person in Poland, but also being a migrant and facing this, being a little bit of this limbo of alienation when you both don't feel part of the local queer community, but you also don't feel part of the Polish community. And members of Queer Club were sharing their stories about trying to cut a little bit this stereotypes on Polish community and Polish migrants in general, but also facing a lot of homophobia, conservativeness, and being a little bit of outcasts in the diasporic movement in Poland. And
ask you to slowly come to an end because we are running out of time.
Okay. Yeah, so this piece was published in Milkmac, and you also can see translation of these texts, obviously, on UNIT website. And with that, I will come to an end saying a big thank you for this process, but also checking if you would like to add something in the end.
Thank you very much. I personally was super happy to see your work because I'm a huge fan of Lula. So I'm really happy that you ended up meeting with Lula, and also after, because there was a group of several people, not just from this round, but also from previous rounds from our workshops that went to the opening last year. So it's really nice to see all of these topics grow among those who participate in the workshops. And yeah, thank you very much for bringing your part to this whole story. And you already mentioned Cuba, so maybe let's go to Cuba and Stephen next to see what they were up to while you ran into them, because both of them have been working on mainly gay history in Poland and Western Germany. And yeah, let's see what they want to tell us. Floor is yours.
Hello, great to see you. Thank you for having us. The title of our, I think, very long piece is When We Stopped Hating Ourselves, Gay Life During Time of Prosecution in Poland and Germany. And it was published in Polish on Oko Press, and in Germany, I don't know how to pronounce it. So Steven, you can add it.
Yeah, it was on Tagesspiegel.
No, yeah, it was on that. And so the piece is fully historical, and we combine the historical context of criminalization of homosexuality in Germany and in Poland. During the communistic era, and in Germany under the paragraph 175. And so the main part was our talk with our heroes, and that was the most, I think, difficult part, to find them. And I have only two gay men who were actually detained during the Hyacinth action, which was this operation during the communistic era, where gay men were treating as deviants and potential threats, and they were interviewed by the militia. And I have two heroes, as I mentioned. Ryszard Kisiel was born in 1948 in Gdańsk, and Leszek Truchliński, who was born in 1956 in Wrocław. And they both was closeted gay men. And after the Hyacinth action, they came out publicly and started working for community and finding other people, and building this, I know, web of queer people in Poland. And they weren't alone. They have this guy from Vienna, Andrzej Selerowicz, who is a Polish migrant there, and he published like some kind of zine or like first like newspaper in which he wrote basically how to be a gay man in Poland, and he sent this zine to his Polish friends, and those friends were sending the zine further, and that was how they built like this like first LGBTQ plus or mostly gay community in Poland. And that was like our my three main heroes. And in this like historic part, I talked with Ewa Majewska, who is like contemporary scholar, and she researched Operation Hyacinth, and she's writing I think the second book in Polish about this operation, this like homophobic about this homophobic part of queer history in Poland, and with Krzysztof Kliszczyński, who is a director of Queer Museum in Warsaw, and where I met Yuri and Manuela, and they added this like historic part and like this I don't know, like they described me how was to like live during the time from the like social like point of view, not from like a very personal one, and it was like very open, like eye-opening for me, and I kind of enjoyed it because I didn't know a lot about that, because we don't like, we have only 2 books about Hyacinth, for example, and maybe 3 about like gay life during communistic era. So I think that was like very interesting. And one more thing before I give you Steven's, I give my floor to Steven, whatever. Ewa Majewska told me that our police, like Polish police, still has the files and like list of Polish people, and the material is still in use. So like she can't like read it, and they don't want to release it. But still, if like this particular man on that list, I know, will be detained, so he could be like be detained because of that file as well. And like Poland like doesn't do nothing about that. So that was like the new thing, and she actually wrote about that in her book, but like nobody like talks about that still.
Yeah, for me, it was also super interesting to dive into that part of history and to talk to so many experts and historians. And we didn't only write, like, I didn't only write about West Germany, we also wrote about the GDR. In Germany, the paragraph 175 was introduced in 1871, expanded in 1935 under the Nazis, and fully repealed only in 1940. 1995 and 69, more than 50,000 men were convicted. And since we also wrote about the queer movement in a broader sense in both countries, Germany and Poland, I really found out a lot of new things that I didn't know before. Like, for example, I read a lot about the different ways different German cities approached the persecution of gay men. And there were like huge differences. Like in Hamburg, for example, it was very harsh and super strict, not like way stricter than other cities. Like, I mean, we were not able to put everything into the article, but I was super surprised how different the German cities approached this persecution. I also, like, before I started researching on it, I also didn't know that a lot of smaller university towns were also super important for the queer movement in Germany. And what is similar in Poland and Germany was that the persecution in both countries intensified the formation of a gay movement. For me, it was also super hard to find men that are willing to talk about the gay persecution. I mean, I already tried it a few times before. I was working on this piece, but I think up until now, like I was in contact with every NGO, like queer NGO. I was in contact with a lot of retirement homes, a lot of initiatives. I think I talked or wrote to anyone who somehow touches this topic, and most of them didn't know any gay men who are willing to talk about it. Which is super sad because there's still there must be a lot of them that are still alive. I found Wolfram in a gay bar in Hamburg that is visited by a lot of older crowds. I just walked in and talked to the people that were sitting on the bar. He was, and that conversation and me talking to him was super inspiring. Like his story is crazy. He was already caught by the police with 17, was sent to detention multiple times, spent some time in prison, but he really never wanted to hide. And 2 minutes left. Okay, yeah. And then I also, because I didn't want to talk to people that I feel like there's 5 men in Germany that are that talked in the past about this era, and I wanted to find people that were not in media outlets so far. And I also talked to Wolfram, who also lives in Hamburg, because I knew him from a book that he wrote about the history of gay persecution in Hamburg. Maybe a little bit about the publishing process, because we also struggled somehow to publish. I feel like we pitched it to almost every German media outlet that exists, and up until now, nobody wanted to publish the Polish part of the story, which I mean, we don't give up yet, and we hope that we will still be able to also publish the Polish part of the story. We were only able to publish the German part of the story in Tagesspiegel, and we were also not really able to publish it the way we wanted it. It's a completely different angle than our original article. It's basically just about Wolfram. But yeah, we still hope that we will be able to publish the other part as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I was just about to write, but yes, thank you. And I'm sorry for missing out on the GDR history. I'm always very happy when people include it, especially when speaking about the past centuries. So I'm very sorry that I was the one not mentioning it this time. But thank you very much. And thank you very much for your work as well. I think, yeah, it's very interesting to see all these challenges of publishing historic pieces from different countries in other countries. So it's very interesting to see this red line running from one project to the other. We have one more text from Ukraine that I already wanted to bring in earlier, but now we have Valerie, who not just published a text, but also produced a podcast, which focuses on queers in Ukraine, but also has this historic layer of anti-queer propaganda and disinformation, also continuities from Soviet times up until now. So, Valerie, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I posted our chat the link to my material, and first of all, I want to tell that it was one of the most difficult texts I ever worked. So it includes the KGB archive that's now available in Ukraine. It includes interview with people who lived during those times when all those topics were under the law. And it includes the people from our militaries who defend us right now. And it was one of the most difficult parts because a couple of my heroes were unable to speak because they were on the zero line. They were defending us, and a couple of them didn't find the time. So I had one of my heroes only because he was in a hospital. Well, I would love to tell that it was a big story about how does it feel to be queer people in Soviet Union. I start to talk first. My first step was talk to people who discover it from historical or any others type of information, and I knew that no one did this research before because there is no like exact historian people who said we make the article about this. All of experts said that it's very important topic, but no one did that. So that's why I should go to the archive and do it myself. Mostly everything about Ukraine was written in Russian and about Russians, like about the Moscow, St. Petersburg's, but nothing about the Kiev. And I found the case of KGB lieutenant who've been actually the queer person. And there is extremely cool story about him because he had a very traumatic life, and he was gay, and he had this case. He gets 6 years in prison for his for him being gay. And that was the part that I start to discover. Also, I did the 2 podcasts with the people who defend us. First, that was Alexander Duhan, the military minometnik. I don't know how to translate it. He told me how does it feel to be gay in a masculinity community? How does it feel to be the open gay in a masculine community? And also, I talked to the girl who is the partner of that killed by Russians, the Russian soldiers who defend Ukraine. So we talked about the rights that those people should have and they don't right now, and what is the problem with this right? Also, I had an idea to include to this project as many queer people as possible. So I choose the media that have the top 10, the most popular media in Ukraine's websites, but it's really friendly to queer topic. I asked to make the illustration to the project, the LGBT friendly and queer artists. You can find the illustration there in my article, linked in the chat right now. And also, I noticed in my article, the musician who lost 30 years of his career. He was if you have some questions, please. If you don't, I don't know what to add.
So you were just cut off in the end, but sorry, could you just, so you basically just wrapped it all up, yeah? I'm sorry you were cut off in the end.
Sorry, I said I'm done.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I'm ready. I don't know what to add. There is a text and there are 2 podcasts that telling the story of gay soldier and lesbian partner of soldier, and the big texts with the historical archives. And here I am.
So thank you very much. I think it's very interesting to see these peculiarities that you also found on your way through all the archives. And I think it's added a very interesting layer to your work with this whole historic aspect. So thank you for that. We will come to questions in the end, but of course we still have our all-time go-to project Eastern Queer Europe to present us some of their work that they've been working on over the past months. Yes, I'm not sure who of you will be speaking, but floor is yours. Feel free to go.
It's me once again, everyone. Hi, with Dasha, who is doing me a favor of screen sharing this time, so there are no technical obstacles on the way. Our presentation was supposed to be presented by Ula from our team, but unfortunately they had to leave us, so I will freestyle a little bit. As you probably already know, we have a pleasure to run Eastern Queer Europe project since over 1.5 of a year, thanks to n-ost and History Unit project. And using these QR codes, you can obviously access it, but also you can find us on the Eastern Queer Europe profiles that Pavel just shared. In this part of the project, we posted 12 pieces of material, being both video, essays, and posts. And this time we focused first of all on the further research of Belarusian Polish queer texts. This time our context was Tomasz Zan and his letters that are, well, conventionally being found as the, let's say, the language that they use is being said that it's the decorum of the times, but actually when you look through the letters of different artists, creators' mind of the era, there is not so much tenderness and softness and such a big language describing love. Therefore, very often when we are talking about looking for queerstry, we are connecting these personas with some queer historical and like queer aspect, but we also focus on different representations of queerness in Eastern Europe in media, theaters, and music. We, for example, had some portraits of Irming Matias or Karol Szymanowski, who were important and openly queer figures, but also some more analytical articles on queer activist practices in different countries, for example, on sworn virgins of the Balkans, but also of queer colonial Minsk, and about many different aspects like that, also talking about pride and activism in Belarus. And also we had some queer archival materials focused only around Poland, and this time mostly more modern history, with just one piece touching 17th century and the rest being put more around the late 20th century context. What is super important for us in that project is actually the way it makes connections, because our project is a social media project and not strictly journalistic one. So even though it has aspects of writing some texts, creating content, digging through the archive, what's most fascinating but also soothing for me is the way we make connections with different people via comments, but also our DMs that are giving us chance, first of all, to see the sense of creating of this context, having a lot of reassurance giving to our materials, but also making more and more connections of people who later participate in creating our content by sending out some different interesting facts and their ideas on how to create it. I think we can move a little further to the next slide. And Dasha, would you like to speak about the statistics, or should I follow up with that as well?
If you can hear me only.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, finally. Okay, I figure out my Zoom problem. Actually, it's just like the numbers. It may be sound for somebody not so big numbers, but what is important for us is that even without some, I don't know, big campaigns, big money, etc., we see constant interest in this. So there wasn't even 1 month where people weren't subscribing, even when we like didn't publish any pieces of content in this month, for example. So for us, it's really important because even with stricter algorithms, sorry, especially if we're talking about Meta, it's maybe less of TikTok, but maybe more about Instagram, where you need to, I don't know, make some kind of magic just to pull through these new things, where many things that are connected to any kind of queer things are being pushed away. But it's still, we can still see that this is like organic growth, and it's, for us, it's really important. That's why we are not planning to stop with this project. We will continue our work. We are like starting to continue our work. For example, Ula with their colleague, they already started their podcast, which is more focused on Belarus. It is called Eastern Europe Belarus. They will have 6 episodes. Now there are available 2 of them. And it's more about, queer history of Belarus itself. And I think we'll continue to do something else and more. And we are really grateful for UNIT and n-ost for the support, because basically, I think we are your child. I don't know if it's like creepy to say something like this, but I think we indeed feel this way. So thank you so much.
Yes, definitely +1 to all the thank yous.
Well, thank you. And thank you for wanting to continue this work. I think it definitely shows this need of exactly this content to be produced. I mean, you've been working for more than a year, and it keeps going and going, and stories keep coming up. So please, if you keep publishing things, I think you will make lots of people happy.
Yeah, we have so much stuff lined up.
That's great to hear. So thank you very much.